The JP poll is out, Week 5 edition. Should I? Yeah, I'll make sure and explain it just so I can say I did. This is not a ranking. It has nothing to do with rankings. It's just who the model would favor over whomst on a neutral field if they played this week. That's it. That's all. Doesn't matter if you haven't played anyone. You don't earn anything here. You don't automatically drop if you lose. You don't automatically rise if you win. No one cares. There are going to be teams that you've already beaten that you're still behind. That is because, and only because, the model would say, well, that team that's rated higher would be favored against this team if they played again. And even if you yell, well, what does that matter? If they already played the game, what does that matter? If it doesn't matter to you, it doesn't matter to you. No one's arguing this should be how the playoff committee operates. This is just how an odds maker would see things. So, with that in mind, there's not a whole lot of change, number 1 through 5. Texas is still number 1. Georgia's still number 2. Ohio State 3. Bama 4. Tennessee did rise 1 spot to number 5. There is not a massive gap between these teams. I should have written all this down. I will tell you between numbers 1 and 5, there's a 6-point gap, or a little over 6-point gap. Texas and Tennessee right now. So it's a little tighter at the top, frankly, than it normally has been. That's good. That's good because that means we don't have any kind of title picture sorted out yet. Numbers 6 through 10, Oregon actually stayed the exact same power rating-wise, but because Tennessee got bumped up, they fell, quote-unquote. They're number 6. Miami is 7. Ole Miss is 8. Penn State is 9. Clemson is 10. None of those teams moved more than 1 spot, so negligible difference in their power rating. Here's where it gets fun. 11 through 15. USC, it did not drop off much. USC dropped 0.4 points, about a half a point. Downgrade from their game at Michigan. Not a huge deal because we thought Michigan would win the game. So USC 11, Notre Dame is at 12. I'm going to come back to that. LSU's 13, Utah's 14, Louisville's 15. That Utah rating is a Cam Rising in the game rating. So they're playing without him. We don't know when he'll be back. They beat Oklahoma State without him. Just assume that Utah rating is with the starting quarterback baked in. Okay, so Notre Dame's at 12. I think they're overrated. What are they rated? Well, they're rated 12. I dug in a little bit. It turns out odds makers even have Notre Dame rated higher than we do. A lot of the books out there, I mean, if you took the traders and you got their raw numbers, have Notre Dame at like 9 and 10. Not 9 and 10 record-wise, 9 or 10. So if you disagree with that, you're not alone. I disagree with that. I disagree with the model on it. I would not. If I were ranking teams, I wouldn't have Notre Dame that high. Jesse, do we know where Notre Dame is in the AP? Because off the top of my head, I have no idea. You know what? Don't even waste your time. So Notre Dame 12. I think they're a little too high. But then again, we build this thing to not value my opinion. It's just it values data, hopefully properly. So 16 through 20. Kansas State is at 16. They did not drop a long way. And let me explain why. So they got boat raced by Brigham Young in a game that we expected them to lose. So we didn't get anything we didn't expect, per se, in the outcome. How warped the score looked was because Kansas State had a ton of turnover issues. They outgained Brigham Young and lost by 31. So you may say, well, what does it matter if they outgained them if they lost? It doesn't. They lost the game. It counts. What I'm saying is if we're trying to do a future-facing predictive-based model, what you have to ask yourself is there a difference as it relates to how you'll play from that point moving forward? Is there a difference in losing 38-9 and being outgained by 200 yards versus losing 38-9 and outgaining your opponent by 100 or so and you were just well minus in the turnover battle? And the answer is yes, because as it turns out, for a team like Kansas State, it is well out of the range of their profile to play a game like that. Chances are they're not going to play a game like that again. Whereas if you just got boat raced and you got thoroughly defeated in every facet of the game, well, that's a lot more duplicable. Then you're just not as good a team as we thought you were. Model did not downgrade Kansas State much. In fact, it took them down about 1.5 points. That's about what they dropped. So that actually is a decent downgrade, but not a huge downgrade. Whereas like if I were ranking teams in the AP, they would have plummeted after losing like that. This is just about future-facing, predictability. Iowa State is 17. They're up 4 spots. UCF is right there at 18. They are not even in the top 35 in the AP. They're insane. They will be. Mark my words, the AP will have UCF ranked in the not-too-distant future, and then we'll say welcome to the party. Missouri's 19. They dropped 7 spots even though they won last week. A&M is 20. Missouri, their overall downgrade was, we downgraded them 3.75 points. It's not a good team right now. Well, they're good. They're not a great team right now. I think that the profile of the team is that of one that has a lot of room to scale up. So I'm not giving up on them. But at the same time, if we're trying to do this thing as to how we would rate these teams on a neutral field right now, I mean, you guys, I know good and well my Missouri crowd does not believe that it would be a dogfight, Iowa State versus you or UCF versus you. I disagree. And I'm going to tell you why. Because I just watched Vandy take you to overtime. So forget the preseason. At this point, we got 4 games of sample size. You got to wipe the preseason expectation. You got 4 games under your belt. That's the team. It's not what the preview magazine said. It's not what you thought amongst each other on the message board anymore. You are not a very good team right now, but you could be. So I'm advancing all of this because I know the feedback I'm going to get. That's why I was so demonstrative, because last week I really undervalued or underestimated how hard Missouri folks would come at us. And then 21 through 25. Iowa, 21. I thought they'd bump up more, actually, but they bumped up 1. Michigan is up 2 spots to number 22. Now, I told you a couple of weeks ago I thought Michigan had bottomed out at 20. Where were they, Jesse? 24. I thought they had bottomed out. I still agree with that. I think now and through the rest of the season, Michigan will hang out in the 15 to 25 range because I don't think the ceiling of the team is any higher than that. Where are we at? 23. Oklahoma dropped 3 spots. Model's not ready to punt on them. Downgraded them 2.5 points. Not ready to punt on him yet. And here's the other thing to watch. Normally, if you bench your quarterback or you lose him to injury, normally there's a big downgrade there. Probably not at all. In fact, there may be a net upgrade. Because I can also tell you a lot of those coaches on that staff kind of sort of thought they wanted that dude to win the job in the spring anyway. Because they didn't think that Jackson Arnold had it in the spring. So Oklahoma, interesting case study, still there at 23. I need you guys to pretend that you hear a drum roll in your head, because we beat the AP to the party with UCF. Jesse, I have no idea if either of these teams are ranked. I know Rutgers isn't. I don't know if Indiana is. But no one cares what the AP says. Indiana has entered the JP poll, I think, for the first time ever. They are number 24. Hats off to Coach Sig. And number 25, Rutgers. New Jersey's college football team. Rutgers. Greg Schiano has cracked the JP poll. Rutgers is 25. Shame on you people in the AP. Shame on you. The one thing you're supposed to be good at is East Coast bias. And the one shot you have to be East Coast bias to the bone in college football, you drop it fantastically and you don't rank Rutgers, and the JP poll beats you to it. Shame. For shame. You know, Rutgers goes to USC in the not-too-distant future. So that's the JP poll. Feel free to rip it apart. But as long as you do, make sure you give me your reasoning. And make sure you understand what we're doing with the JP poll, please. None of the low-hanging fruit. You already know I'm going to have to deal with that with casuals who wander by and just see it on social media. In fact, I just took the liberty of posting that right before we started the segment, and it's already got 401 replies. So I'll be wading through that cesspool.